We have here a key line in this chapter on supply. It is our conscious union with God which enables us to live without taking thought and makes possible a life of complete abundance by grace. I'm sure when we read that, we were all very pleased that it was there. But it is the rest of this particular thing we call a lifespan that has to be lived that way in order for those words to have meaning. Our conscious union with God. But God is not up there. God is the infinite I, and therefore everywhere. And we are no longer having to speak to God 5 million miles away. We are accepting the kingdom of God within me as the place where I'm going to have conscious union with God. And then we go a step further and realize that when Jesus walked this earth, we were looking at ourselves. We were looking at the one life expressing. And the glories of that one life were made manifest in infinite ways to show us that that one life which is us will manifest in infinite ways when we accept ourselves to be that one life. To talk of conscious union with God and not accept yourself to be the one life is the very opposite of what you are trying to realize. If you are not that one life, what are you? If God is the only life. And so you see then, we have a mind within ourselves which is ever denying our identity. It is ever leaping up into the world of senses to do battle. It is ever making a claim that God's universe is imperfect. It is ever expressing the Antichrist. And unless we can see this adversary as the mind of our own self, the false mind, the non-mind, which is trying to act very grown-up and be a mind when it has no reality, we are going to let it continue to run us, continue to divide his garment, continue to take thought about a self that does not exist. For the only self you can be is the one self. The only life you can be is the one life. Now Luke 12 is the story of your one life and the method whereby you become consciously one with God, meaning you come to the realization of individual identity as God expressing. Luke 12 or Matthew 6 in the Sermon on the Mount. Now, when you have only the one life of God as your life, you can understand why his advice was, take no thought for your life. He was revealing to you the secret of your own life as divine, needing no human thought to protect it, preserve it, sustain it, feed it, nourish it, maintain it, direct it, or channel it. But rather, he was recommending there the crucifixion of that personal sense of self, which thinks it has a special life all its own, which God is not watching over, which is run by chance, which is not under divine law. And so in our mistrust of the intelligence of the Father, we prefer to walk in our own limited intelligence. And that just shows how unintelligent we can be. Now along comes the Master. The Master who had already accomplished that which we are learning to do. He who had learned to take no thought for his life. He who had died to the flesh. He who had been reborn of the Spirit. He who had accepted that I and the Father are one. Thou seest me, thou seest him that sent me. Thou seest only divine life here. And they're never questioning that, accepting omnipotence as the very substance of his own being. Why, of course, make them sit down to eat. Let them drink. If you drink of the water that I have, you shall never thirst again. Because this is divine water. This is divine truth. This is the divinity of your own being realized. There is no need unexpressed or unfulfilled. Take no thought for your life. And when we understand it, think of the great relief that I can now, understanding this, walk forth and take no thought for how I shall eat or what I shall wear, because my Father knoweth. My own substance manufactures every need it has. I'm not separated from I anymore. This great revelation of the one divine life is contained here in take no thought for your life. How do you accept it? What method do you use to accept it? Do you repeat it? You make a little chart up and memorize it? Or do you listen for the still small voice which brings infinity to your doorstep? Do you realize the power of infinity in the still small voice? What is hidden manna? Why is there a cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night? Why do ravens bring food to Elijah? Why are multitudes fed without visible food until one consciousness appears that accepts itself to be the divine self and says, and so are you. You are the divine self as I am. I see you and I see the Father. Ye are the light. And as we rest in this realization, we go beyond this personal self. This limiting mind which struggles, which strives, which wants so desperately to sit on the throne and guide things. Where is there poverty in the world today? Can you find one place where it is real? If divine consciousness is omnipresent, is there really starvation? Is there really war? Is there really suffering? Or is there a false consciousness of nations, unaware of the one divine life which is the only? Wherever you go, there is abundance. Wherever you go, there is peace. Wherever you go, there is harmony. There is no place in the universe where this is not the truth. For I, the invisible self, am the only present self. I am the Christ of each individual. I am the life, the way, the truth, the resurrection. And if there is one enlightened consciousness anywhere, there is food. There is spiritual power. There is life expressing, brought into manifestation by that illumined consciousness. And that is our responsibility. We must show the way by taking no thought for our life, for our life is God. And the Father is greater than I. Unto the Father I am meek. The Father's mind is my mind. The Father's body is my body. The Father's laws are my laws. The Father's energy is my energy. The Father's love and truth and peace are mine. What makes gold appear in a fish's mouth? It is the consciousness of the presence of God made manifest as substance. What is a healing? The consciousness of the presence of God made manifest as fullness, fulfillment, wholeness, completeness. We should look at this, take no thought for your life, and see that it and Joel's brief statement about conscious union with God, being the miracle worker, are one and the same. The fowls of the air, they do not store in barns. Human beings do, because they are not quite sure that God will be here tomorrow to supply them with their needs. The lilies of the field take no thought, but they are always clothed in perfect raiment. Men take thought because they are not aware of the law that is functioning through their very being. So all through we are seeing the flowers, aware of a law that men do not know, that in their silence they are infinity expressing perfectly. In our silence, in our acceptance, we will show forth that perfect raiment. We will not need to store in barns, to hoard. We will not need to take thought for the morrow, because yourself is tomorrow. Yourself is every tomorrow that will ever be. Yourself is the only self in this universe. And you are not separated from your neighbor. You are not separated from the Father. You are not separated from anything in the spiritual universe. This constitutes your oneness. And the miracle of only oneness flows instantly to where you are to appear as the necessary form. Only in this conscious oneness. And so if I were you, and I had the need of supply, I would recognize that by taking thought about it, I am holding it away. By taking thought about it, I am disobeying divine law, which says, take no thought for your life. Now, why do I want to set my intelligence up above the Father's intelligence and take thought for my life and for my supply? And why do I want to store in bonds? Do you know how many billions of dollars have been unspent by those who have died and were not able to use what they had stored in bonds? We get this feeling of the instant flow of reality where we are. And we depend on it. I live, yet not I. This spirit that is my life lives itself. How can spirit do anything that is not right? How can I be righteous if I am not the spirit which alone can be righteous? Now then, if you take this literally, instead of getting the spiritual meaning, you would make the mistake of running out, getting rid of your bank account, selling all that you have and giving it away, because it says don't store in bonds. That would be the letter of the truth. But the spirit of the truth is to update you to the realization that allness is always where you are. It is to bring you to the mountaintop of understanding that says, all that the Father hath is always mine. There are human practical things you will continue to do until you reach a point where you know that my fidelity, my integrity, my confidence rests completely not on form, but on the invisible fabric. I rest on the substance. And that will give me all the forms I will ever need, whenever I need them. I'm taking no thought for my human life, because my life is divine. I'm not storing in bonds because I have passed the place where materiality is reality. I cannot store reality. I cannot store spirit, and there is nothing but spirit. That which I would store in bonds is not reality. I have come then to the place where matter and supply are not synonymous. There is no supply that is called matter. Matter is the illusion of supply. We cannot store supply because it is spiritual. And when you are told not to store in bonds, it is pointing you in the direction of the Spirit as the only real supply. So you will not awaken one morning and look at the paper and see that inflation has wiped you out. Inflation won't wipe out spirit. And if you go back through depressions, if you were in spirit, you weren't wiped out. There's no barns to spirit because it is everywhere. And it is you. Don't let this gap come between spirit and yourself, but recognize yourself to be that spirit. And God isn't storing in bonds. Now you've caught the point then that conscious union is a very subtle thing. You may think you're one with spirit, but you're only mouthing it. You may think you're one with spirit, but you're only believing it. You're never one with spirit until that is your name and your substance and your life. And as long as you're fearing for your life, as long as you're putting faith in men, in princes, in things, in man whose breath is in his nostrils, in employer or employee, in dollars or investments, in things, in conditions, you are taking thought for your life and you are not accepting yourself to be that which is indestructible, Spirit of God. Now the miracle never begins until you are that one, that I am. Only then is there a cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. Your identity is your hidden manna. Your identity is the food the raven brings. Your identity is the food for 5,000. Your identity is life eternal. And you cannot live outside of identity and think that you are in the tree of life because you're in the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. One step out of Eden. Now we all have the same privilege of living in the Garden of Eden. The awareness of self as spirit. And there is no one on this earth who cannot come to that realization and find that because of that realization, through him, the expression of spirit appears as food on the table, as life without opposite, as health without opposite, as goodness without opposite, as justice without opposite. There are no opposites in spiritual realization. There are no places where spirit is defective, or lacking, or limited. And your absolute self-realization becomes the law of God functioning where you stand. You are that place where God is shining through. There are whole nations who are unaware of this. And they live in darkness. And there are large segments of humanity everywhere, completely unaware that only God is present. There is no other being. There is no other self. And that one divine life is the life of all. This is your two great commandments then. The one life of God is my life and my neighbor's life. And as long as I accept by deed as well as by word this realization, as long as I am in spiritual consciousness of the universe, I am my own law of supply. I am my own law of love. I am my own self-fulfillment. And I can feed all those who come to the limit of their need by this realization. For it is not I, the human, but I, the infinite self, shining through as the form, the supply, the love, the beauty, the peace, the truth, making God's work visible through the illumined consciousness. Now, if you read Luke 12 then, with the knowledge that it is the revelation to you of your identity, you will capture that which the world has missed and which Joel has revealed among others. We are in the infinite universe now. There is no place you can ever be where God is not. There is no place you can ever be where spirit is not the only life. There is never another life, no matter what you may see. If you still persist in the belief in lack, you are judging after the appearances. And you are being hypnotized by your own senses into seeing lack where only spirit is. If the adjustments are made, you will accept spirit as omnipresent, and therefore spirit must be employer, employee, client, customer, opportunity, condition. Only spirit can be. And when you have the broad vision then of spirit alone as the only life, You can sit back and wait for the doorbell to ring, for the letter to come, for the telephone call, all to tell you that Spirit knoweth your need. Oneness is the key. And whereas we started out to understand supply, we find another miracle. When we know the law of supply, we know the law of health. We know the law of fulfillment. We know the law of infinite perfection in all things. We know the law of grace. Supply was what brought us to an understanding of infinite divinity. For our real supply is life. And when you have life, then all that is needed is supply. With 12 baskets full at all times. Now let us take into consciousness the truth that makes us free. The only one who can ever lack is someone who is not even me. If there is someone lacking, it cannot be me, because I am Spirit, self-contained, God being, expressing, individualizing, ever productive. And so every time I lack, I must look at this fellow who's lacking and say, who are you? Where did you come from? Whatever made you think you're even living? You're just a figment of the imagination. There is no lacking in reality. And if you are unreality, who wants you? No, I can never be that fellow who lacks. I can never be the fellow who is needing something. Because there is no such person. Such a person is a false consciousness masquerading, but is only an imitation of life. A shell without substance. An image in the mind. That is not me. My name is the Spirit. My Father is the Spirit. I am divine consciousness individualized, expressing all of infinity right where I am forever. I don't have to make it so. I simply have to know the truth. And that is the truth. And it will make me free. I am being fed by the Spirit, by infinity, by the inner word, by the still small voice, by the Father within. And I trust the Father. The Father is my shepherd. And I see now no valley of death. The false claims vanish. For where the Father is, the Son is. And they are one self. The Father is not going through a valley of death, and neither is the Son. We are ever in the kingdom of God on earth. Where all needs are fulfilled, where all is expressing the divine will. And that divine will in me is ever speaking to me and through me, telling me to be perfect as my Father which is in heaven. To be perfect as the divine substance that I am. So I rest. I am perfect as my Father. His will in me is the only will I know. And it is His will that I be perfect. Therefore, because there is no power to oppose His will is fulfilled already, and I am perfect. I am His perfect substance. In all ways, in all things I must prosper. There's no place where a veil is suddenly descended upon me. There is no veil in spirit. There is no place where I am limited or lacking. There is no place where I must go out and find something. All comes from within. Through radiant transformation it appears. And I behold His universe made manifest. Because I am living in His Spirit. Never separated in thought, in belief, in concept. Never taking thought as a mortal being. We rest now. Beyond all division of person, place, thing, race, nation, no division, one infinite spirit I am. And I am fulfilling both commandments there, and infinity must express through this consciousness. For it is the full infinite tree of life, and I am back in the garden. One of the admonitions to take no thought is to take us out of the belief that we must make something become something. When you take thought, you're trying to create a situation. But when all situations are already perfect, what is there to create? You're taking thought as the denial of present perfection, because you are unable to see that perfection. But when you know that perfection is there, you will take no thought. And that is knowing the truth. That perfection is already present, regardless of what the eye may see. For God is present, and only God is present, and the mirage of matter can no longer mesmerize you into saying, I do not have. You are feeling your own being, rising to a higher dimension of self-realization, where is revealed to you that which exists invisible to all human sense. Yes, you've been walking in the Garden of Eden, unknown to your human selfhood. All that exists here is the infinite spiritual kingdom. That is all that is around us. And looking through the mirage of form, of condition, of person, place, and thing in this higher dimension, we behold His universe, His spiritual reality, His abundance ever present, His harmony, His life. And lo and behold, it is your life. You are out of false identity. You are not a person. You are not a human. You are not a mortal. You are the one self individualized, appearing through the mirage of senses as these things that the world thinks you are. Your reality is the everlasting life of God. And when you get that, when it's yours, you won't have to hold this world on your shoulders anymore. There are 50 pages, roughly, of words, wisdoms in the infinite way. And so, next week we're going to discuss these wisdoms. In your review of them before class, you will discover that many of the things you have studied and some of the glimpses you have had are in these wisdoms. Now, you should know that the wisdoms which are written here are just like the revelations in the Bible. They're not the words of a man. They are the illumined inner revelations that have come from the still small voice through Joel. And so when you read them, you're hearing that voice within yourself which has put these words before you. They are trustworthy. They are divine law. And the degree to which they will mean something to you will be according to the level that you have accepted yourself to be. If you are at that state of consciousness which is one with yourself, these words you will recognize as your own. For your own inner self has spoken these words through Joel. The one infinite self has spoken these words. They are meant as a lamplighter, a way shower. If you were to work with them this week, before next week's class, we would start that class at a higher level. So you might consider that. And then next week, all of us having been exposed to the wisdoms, we would have had that experience behind us, and we could now proceed to the actual spiritual realization for which these are the foundation. Always we're moving higher and upward to that moment called the New Jerusalem, the real realization of the new man, the new self. And so we only have a few more weeks to go. Let's see, we have 3 more classes, haven't we, for this particular series. And all has been a preparation for the new horizons and the new Jerusalem, which is your new consciousness. Before the series is up, you may find that there are certain points that you haven't been able to clarify within yourself. I hope you will take the time to write those questions down and either put them on this desk or mail them to me, either way. It would be well if you could leave this series with a fairly good understanding of your identity. And so do not think any question is too unimportant because every question that opens another door is important. Don't let any question go unanswered, no matter how basic it may be. It is important to you, and therefore it's important. And let's come out of this series in the conscious realization that the Spirit of God is not something apart from me that I must attain, but is my substance and is all that I am. For that will be the New Jerusalem. That will be conscious union with God in which I am that one. Becomes your new consciousness. And from that, all things are possible. For nothing is impossible to that one consciousness. Thank you very much.
Thank you.